Have you ever really thought about how something as simple as stubbornness could be seen as, well, something way more serious? Today, we're going to unpack a powerful argument that draws a straight line from just being a little hard headed to a major spiritual problem. And more importantly, what the antidote is. So, this is our starting point, a quote from 1 Samuel that is pretty shocking, right? It says, "Rebellion is basically witchcraft, and stubbornness is the same as idolatry." I mean, on the surface, that sounds completely wild. How can just being stubborn be the same as, worshiping an idol? And that's the big question for us today. The source material actually lays out a very clear, logical path that connects all these dots. So let's trace it step by step and see exactly how this argument gets built. Okay, our journey starts with a really foundational principle, and it's all illustrated through the story of an old king. It's this idea that real devotion isn't about these big, flashy gestures, but about something much, much more basic. So, this whole thing kicks off with the story of King Saul. The setup is simple. Saul gets a direct command, crystal clear instructions, but instead of following them to the letter, he decides to do what he thinks is best. He goes off script. And that one choice is the foundation for this entire lesson. This is the key line that's delivered to Saul right after he messes up. The source really hammers this point home. You could put on the biggest, most impressive religious ceremony, the best sacrifice, but it's all worthless if you didn't follow the simple instruction to begin with. So here's the crucial principle. According to the source, the real priority is on action, on obedience, actually living out the instructions you're given, not just going through religious motions. This sets the stage for everything else. Disobedience isn't some small slip-up. It's the root of the entire problem. All right, so if obedience is the foundation, what happens when you just ignore it? Well, the source argues that the very first step away from obedience leads you straight into rebellion. And the definition of rebellion here is really straightforward. In this context, it isn't some huge, dramatic protest with picket signs. Nope. It's simply the act of not doing what you were told. It's the immediate result of disobedience. And this brings us right back to that jarring comparison from the very beginning. The text puts these two things, rebellion and witchcraft, side by side, as if they're on the exact same level. This comparison is meant to be a shock to the system. It's there to show just how seriously the source treats disobedience. It's saying that rebellion, just choosing your own way over a direct command, is not a minor issue. It's a huge deal. So, if disobedience leads to rebellion, what happens next on this path? Well, the argument keeps going, showing how that act of rebellion can harden into something even tougher to deal with. It's the logical next question, right? What happens if that rebellion isn't just a one-time mistake? What if someone doubles down on doing things their own way, even when they're told it's wrong? And there's our answer. According to this text, when rebellion is sustained, it becomes stubbornness. And the absolute key word here is refusal. It's not just about making a mistake anymore. It's about actively rejecting the chance to make it right. It's insisting that your path is the right one no matter what. And this is where the argument hits its peak. It's the final and, honestly, maybe the most challenging conclusion. It connects that idea of just being stubborn directly to the act of worship itself. So here we are at the second half of that initial quote. Just like rebellion was put on par with witchcraft, now stubbornness is being equated with iniquity and idolatry. It's a massive claim. Again, it feels like a huge leap. You're probably thinking, hold on a second. How is me digging my heels in the same as bowing down to a golden statue? Well, the source actually gives us a pretty clear step-by-step reason. Okay, let's break down the logic. It basically goes like this. When you stubbornly refuse to be corrected by a higher authority, in this context, God's word, you are, in effect, making yourself the ultimate authority. You're saying, my opinion, my feelings, my way, that's what truly matters most. The source argues that this is an act of lifting yourself up, which is basically a form of self-worship. And at its core, self-worship is idolatry. You've just made an idol out of yourself. So here it is, the whole chain of events laid out plain and simple. It starts small with a simple choice to disobey. That act itself is called rebellion. When you keep up that rebellion and refuse to be corrected, it turns into stubbornness. And finally, that stubbornness, by putting yourself at the very center of your own universe, becomes idolatry. It's a domino effect. Okay, so we've traced this whole path downward. But here's the good news. The source text doesn't just leave us there. It also shows us a clear path back up. It gives us an antidote to this entire spiral.
And really, it all comes down to this one choice. On one side, you've got the path we just looked at. You reject correction, you end up making an idol of yourself. But there's another path. On the other side, to humbly yield, to actually accept correction, well, that's presented as the path to wisdom.
This is the ultimate takeaway. The antidote to the idolatry that comes from stubbornness is just humility. It's the simple willingness to be corrected, to value instruction more than your own opinion. That, the source says, is where true wisdom is found.
And so, this whole thing leaves us with a final, really personal question. It asks us to take this framework we've just unpacked and apply it to our own lives. What correction, what instruction, what piece of counsel are you resisting right now? It's definitely a challenging thought to end on.